Hello, and welcome everybody to our. I don't know what we're calling this. We're calling this little live Q&A, free agency Q&A, fucking seasons over Q&A, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're doing here. I don't know who's hosting this, but I'm Shwinny Poo. I'm Shwin. You know me, and I'm joined by Sam. Sam, how are you doing? Say hi to everybody.
I am here. I'm alive. And yeah, I just got done teaching for the school year. So, trying to enjoy some off time and diving right back into NBA and Knicks lore.
Yeah, no better time for it than when you're not working, right? So that's a good thing. Um, I guess I'll do the quick version of the announcements. We have an Instagram, check that out at the strict.land. We have a YouTube where you're presumably watching this. So please hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We also have a website which you can buy merchandise at. Check that out. T-shirts, sweatshirts, all that kind of good shit is on there. And then we also have a Patreon, a number of different tiers you can subscribe to. So check that out. That's available to access on our website. You get additional content and all kinds of other goodies. So check that out. But yeah, nobody's here to listen to the Patreon read, but they are here to listen to us talk about Bet Online, which is our number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Okay, great. Nobody cares about that. So we're going to answer some questions that we first got in our little Discord. So we populated Zach actually this. So thank you, Zach, for
Shouts Zach.
organizing the questions. The first one comes from our beloved Jerry Garcia, who you may know as James Mercida. Why do you guys hate homegrown budding superstar RJ Barrett so much? How little ball do you know, Sam? Can turn that one over to you.
I don't hate RJ. I think we were all just I think what happened is that we all had higher expectations for RJ heading into the season. Um, really? Are we serious with this comment? But anyways, I would say we were all we had high expectations, and then to see what he did in the playoffs, it kind of vindicated why we all felt the way we did during the regular season. Like he's capable of performing at a consistent level and being able to help produce wins. So the fact that he wasn't doing that for the most part during the regular season was kind of annoying. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate RJ, but I just hope he's more consistent as he was in the playoffs next year.
Um, yeah, I don't hate RJ. Again,
Are you sure,
contrary.
Shwin?
Yeah, I know, contrary to popular belief. I just have I have a lot of questions about RJ that I feel like I would have wanted to be answered more positively or at all by this point in his career, and I just feel like it's still a roller coaster ride with him. It was like I'm understanding of that roller coaster ride for younger players. I get it, but I felt like last year was a year where you were expecting him to take a step up in terms of his consistency. The slow start is something else, but but I the slow start is one thing. You know, he has that really good December, and you think, okay, here we go. Looks like it's he's figured it out, playing off of Julius and Jalen Brunson now, like kind of an adjustment period, and then
Splits his
he
finger open.
he splits his finger open, but then for some reason, like he comes back and you just get a lot of these weird stretches where he looks slow and unathletic. I mean, mixed in, you have some really good games. Don't get me wrong. You know, he has that game against Toronto where should have been an and one with a chance to win the game in regulation. Well, I mean, I don't need to go through the whole list, but he did have good games. It's not like it was just like 4 months of like no good games. And then obviously the playoffs were a lot better. Big improvement in terms of what he did in the playoffs versus what we saw in the regular season. But I just look, he's not going to be making a rookie scale deal anymore. He's going to be making whatever he makes. I think it's 4 years, 107 million guaranteed on his contract. I think incentives can take that up to 120. Um, it's a fine deal, but I definitely am not totally sold now. Like I'm more concerned about him than I was at the end of any of his previous seasons, because the inconsistency, I should say, is just so like it's the swings are so volatile, and I just don't know like is this who he is or is this something he figures out, and do the Knicks have the time to figure that out? And that's another part of this variable that didn't exist before. The Knicks were never so good a team in his first 3 seasons where there was any need to not prioritize giving him more time and his development. And maybe, you can disagree with this, but for me, I think the team is really good. So, if we're going to play RJ Barrett in this role, and this is the role he's in, where he is a high usage scoring option, then he needs to be better at that. And like, he's especially got to be better at that if he's going to be what he was defensively during the regular season. He's got to be way more efficient to offset that. And he hasn't demonstrated that ability over the course of a season yet. So, I mean, on top of some of the skill stuff where it's like he doesn't shoot the ball off the dribble at all, his handle isn't great. I'm not that concerned about that, to be honest, because I don't think you need to be flashy with the handle, but he doesn't create separation off the bounce from guys. It just, everything feels very methodical at times. He didn't look explosive. He looked a lot better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, which was extremely odd, just athletically and his decision making. And then the other thing, which Prez has talked about before, is like his steal and block rate have come down every single year of his career, which is not the trend you want to see for a young guy. Like, he's never been, and he's not going to be a high steals or high block player. That's okay, but you still don't want to see it trending in that direction, especially at his age. So, I think those are just the reasons why I have questions about him, and why I'm sure that internally the Knicks have some questions about him. All right. The next question was from Presidente. If we have Dante DiVincenzo, how many minutes per game should IQ, DiVincenzo, and Grimes get?
Wow. I mean, this is something that's been like looming over my mind as I've glanced at these Dante DiVincenzo rumors, and we have all this depth at the guard/wing spot with like IQ, Grimes, RJ, of course, Hart, if they bring him back, which is the assumption, and then you bring in a Dante DiVincenzo. My thing is like, the Knicks aren't going to play small. That's not Thibs' thing. So obviously someone's minutes are going to suffer. And we saw during the playoffs, like, it was very annoying, these stretches where Thibs was playing these lineups of RJ and Hart together, and numbers, whatever they may be on the court, Miami just like, it totally killed the Knicks team on offense when it came time to, guys are helping off Josh Hart, guys are helping off RJ, and it's making things much more difficult for someone like Jalen Brunson. So in terms of minutes per game, like what they should get, I mean, it should be more so based on like who's performing at a high level that night. And that's how I would logically like to see it play out, but we know that's not how it's going to play out. Like, we know that Thibs is going to have like his guys that he goes to every single time, like no matter what. Like, if things are going rough, he's going to revert back to similar patterns that he has in previous years. So it's really hard to say, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting question, especially without knowing, one, whether we have Dante DiVincenzo for sure, and two, what the rest of our offseason moves leave the roster looking like. But in the event that we do have, let's say, just signed DiVincenzo, and I'm going to assume Obi Toppin is not here. That's just my assumption. So let's just say we signed DiVincenzo and Obi Toppin's not here.
Which makes drafting or not drafting, but signing his brother hilarious in that way.
Yeah, it does. Which also is like, is he going to be here then? I don't know. I don't know. It raises a lot of questions, but what I wanted to do was take a look at kind of what did our rotation look like last year. And if you go to December 3rd, or I guess December 4th is when uh, our 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 rotation officially changed for the better. So if you go from that date to the end of the season, um, and you look at the Knicks schedule, or it's not the Knicks schedule, Jesus, with the Knicks minutes, I should say, which I'm trying to pull up right now, but NBA.com is being very, very annoying. So please bear with me for a second, people. Um, hey Sam, how you doing? How's life? Things are good. Great to hear. All right, here we go. Here we go. December 4th
Classic NBA.
until today. Okay. Here we are. It's calculating. It's collating. Mother is collating. Okay, here we are. Where the fuck are the minutes? You got to be kidding me. Okay, I'm going to pull, whatever. I'm just going to pull up the full season numbers because this is annoying. All right, Julius Randle was at 35 and a half. Jalen Brunson, 35. RJ Barrett, 33.9. Josh Hart, 30 in only 25 games, should be said. Quentin Grimes, 29.9. Quickly, 28.9. Mitchell Robinson, 27. And those are the main 7 guys. Of the other 2 dudes that were in the rotation the entire year, 19.8 for Hartenstein, 15.7 for Obi. I would say if Obi is gone, let's just assume Obi's gone. I mean, this is just the world we can operate in, right? I think you should not just take, I think you should take about 3 minutes from Julius, take about 3 minutes from Jalen Brunson, and take about 3 minutes from RJ Barrett. That gives you an additional 9 minutes. Okay. And I think you basically just toss that to the Obi Toppin spot. So let's just say DiVincenzo takes his minutes. Obviously, he's not going to take his role exactly. Throw him those 9 minutes. That puts him at 24. I know I'm not doing the whole fucking rotation that Prez wants me to do. I'm not really interested in that. More or less, though, the point being is I think there are minutes for him if Tibbs, I should say, if Tibbs is willing to cut back the minutes for his proverbial big three, a little bit more. Like it doesn't take a lot to up the minutes of, and this was kind of like the point and what was so frustrating with Obi Toppin a lot of times this year was like, it doesn't take a lot to just get him a couple more minutes a game, which wasn't in the offing, but you would hope that DiVincenzo, kind of being a player that I think suits Tibbs a bit more, makes sense. I've seen people throwing out various lineups and rotations. Like, I think the reality you got to accept is that you can't have a rotation realistically where those 3 guys, if they're still here, I'm assuming in RJ Barrett's case, but Brunson, Randall, RJ, they're not going to play at least 32 minutes. And then you just go from there. So if RJ plays 32 minutes between the 2 and 3, and Jalen Brunson plays 32 minutes, basically all at the 1, and Randall plays 32 minutes all at the 4, okay, you can, let's say Quick gets the backup 16 minutes of point guard, okay, that's 16. Let's say you want Grimes. What do you want Grimes at? Let's say Grimes plays 28
26,
minutes.
27.
26.
Yeah.
Let's say 28 minutes. That gives 20 minutes now at the backup too. Okay, let's say that 10 of those go to Quick, and that leaves another 10. So 10 of those go to DiVincenzo. All right. Then you've got 16 minutes at the 3 and 16 minutes at the 4. You can say 8 minutes of that go to DiVincenzo, 8 minutes go to, and then 16, 8 minutes go to Hart, 16 go to Hart at the backup 4. That gives him 24. That leaves DiVincenzo at 18. That feels a little light. Okay. You want to cut back RJ's minutes a couple more. So give him 30, and that gives DiVincenzo 20. You cut back Grimes a minute. You cut back Quickly a minute. That gives DiVincenzo now 22. Does that feel better for everybody? I don't know. I just think it's very possible to keep multiple dudes happy. And if he can't manage a 9-man rotation like that, I don't know what to tell you. Now, if you want to say that lineup is small, that's fine. That's a different question, though. That's a different argument. It's a totally different kind of thing to discuss. But yeah, I just think you can manage that. I think there are minutes for those guys, and we know injuries will happen. This was a thing that we saw happen this year. That's why Quickly ended up playing whatever it was, almost 29 minutes a night. It's not because he was actually playing 29 minutes a night, but it's because Jalen Brunson missed time. And so because Jalen Brunson missed time, his minutes got picked up. RJ Barrett missed time this year. He's missed time at various points in his career. Not a lot, but he's missed time. That means a guy like Quentin Grimes can get minutes. Josh Hart, guys will miss time. And as long as that's the case, like you need depth, and that depth will play. And just like just looking at Brunson for his career, he's played 73 games, 57 in 2019-20. I don't know how many games. Let me check how many games Dallas actually played that year. They played 65. He played 68 the year after that. That was the 71 game season. He played 79, then he played 68 this past season. But this past season was also the first time he's a starter. It's his biggest load. Like, I would suspect the way he plays and just how hard he plays.
It's going to be around like 70 games per.
Yeah, like he's going to miss some time. And so there'll always be those opportunities. All right, we spent enough time on this question. Prez, you can talk about this in the podcast if you want. All right, this one is from Knight of Cups. I was looking at our roster. Who is our backup small forward? Our bench is IQ Josh Hart, question. OB Hart. I know Tibbs likes to run 9 deep, but considering how much Nick Nurse is going to play RJ for Team Canada, not Nick Nurse anymore, it's Yordi Fernandez, assistant coach for the Kings. It feels like that might be an important backup spot. Wait, is that Rokus's entrance music? No,
Nope.
That's not Rokus's.
Never is going to be an entrance music. He's never coming here.
Yeah, I think our backup small forward is basically just Josh Hart. And it's
Josh Hart and whoever else by committee.
Yeah, it's Josh Hart. And let's say that the Knicks did nothing this offseason. Say they do absolutely nothing. Your backup small forward would be. It doesn't really. I don't know how to. You're gonna have two of.
It's gonna be like a stagger, of Grimes, I would say, and Hart.
It'll be Grimes at a certain point. It'll be RJ at a certain point. It'll be Hart at a certain point. But those 3 guys will be cycling in at that small forward spot. I think that's what gets that's why the DiVincenzo signing is interesting to me, because if you sign him, it feels like you do need to open up minutes for him. You can't go 10 deep. And so it feels like a trade should be coming, but we haven't really heard anything definitive about that. We've heard rumors, they're interested in, Paul George or Zach LaVine or whatever. We haven't really heard any serious smoke yet about, they're negotiating or anything along those lines. So it doesn't mean that it's not happening, but until it happens, it is. I mean, that's just what I think. I can't imagine anything else would happen at the small forward spot other than that. So we will see, but I don't think that one's too complicated. It's just basically run the rotation you ran after the All-Star break this year, and there you go. All right, this one is from ZMP323, company man hater. If the Knicks do trade Obi, what are some teams around the league that you think he'd thrive with, Sam?
I think number one that always comes to everyone's mind is, of course, the Indiana Pacers. Just because there's been so many long rumors with him in the Pacers. A lot of people think, playing with someone like Tyrese Halliburton, getting out in the open floor will help him, thrive a little bit more. And just I think also people just think that the Pacers will open up those starter minutes for him, and he's been able to thrive in those starter minutes. And yeah, I think that's just number one choice right there. Other than that, I mean, I'm really trying to think of what teams really need a 4.
Yeah, I like the Wizards a lot.
The Wizards are a good team. I mean, they got a lot of minutes to go around for anybody and everybody right now, it seems.
Yeah, they'd be good. I think the Kings don't have a 4 right now. I mean, they could bring back Barnes. Obviously, Keegan Murray can play there, but they don't have a 4. Obi'd be interesting for them. He's still, cost controlled. He's at, I think, $6.8 million for this year. He can. I mean, they have $34 million in cap space. If they don't get anybody, hell, even if they do get somebody, they could still put Obi in the rotation at least. And if nothing else, I promise you, he'll get more burn there than he will in New York. And he'll not just get more burn. He'll be playing in a team that plays at a tempo that I think, if he's going to really explode in the NBA, that's the type of team where it could happen. The way they play, the speed they play at, the tempo they play at, with all the ball movement, the player movement, and the cutting. I can't think of too many better teams than that. I don't know if Golden State has salary to move, expiring salary, anything like that to move. He'd be an interesting fit there. I don't think the Spurs would do it because they have dudes that play at that spot now, but
Mhm.
he'd be interesting there to me. Those are the teams that come to mind most. Trying to think if there's anybody else. Honestly, I think he would be really good on the Lakers, but they don't need him. And I don't even know if they have no way to acquire him right now. But yeah, I mean, I think there's just a bunch of teams that could use him and would at least benefit from just giving him the chance because they don't really have anything else going on. So yeah, those are the few just to name off the top of my head. All right, this one is from Read and React and from our very own Zach. Is the CAA mafia stronger than the Clutch mafia?
I mean, hey, there's been some changing tides lately. OG and Anobi, Anthony Edwards both left Clutch recently. You also heard like one of their bigger power agents, I guess, also left. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's CAA. It'll always be CAA. CAA is like a way bigger agency. They
they've
have
just
more.
also been established longer too,
Yeah,
right?
it's established. They have more stars. They have more players. They have more resources. They have more everything. Clutch Mafia is just LeBron and doing whatever the hell he wants. That's
Honestly, like looking at the Clutch roster, like their main guys are what? LeBron, Anthony Davis, Zach LaVine, and like who else after that? Tyrese Maxey. Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
names
yeah.
the names get really skimp after that. Like
They don't have a deep roster, and they lost Anthony Edwards. They lost, who was OG Ananobi today. So they've lost some of their some kind of higher profile guys for them. So yeah, I don't think this is too much of a question. By the way, if you're leaving questions in the chat, don't worry about it. We will get to it once we get through the ones that we got in the Discord. Um, all right, this one. This is kind of combined question, both from Night of Cups and Ronnie from Hell's Kitchen, ask similar things, which are, assuming the roster stays the same, do you think anyone is going to take a leap with some stability / known role? I think Grimes might dip into his bag and surprise people. And then the second part from Ronnie's from Hell's Kitchen. Which reasonable developmental skill would you most love to see from RJ, IQ, Grimes, Mitch?
hmm. Um all right, let me see. I would say Grimes. I would just Grimes. Let me start with Mitch. I would like Mitch to develop more a little bit, just a tiny incy bit more passing on the short roll. I think that would help with things. With Grimes, I think we've all seen Grimes like try to dip into his bag. Especially early on in this season, he tried a lot to like attack off closeouts, sometimes a little bit too much. So I'd like to see him find that balance, I guess. Find that right balance of attacking closeouts as well as just like knowing when to shoot, not shooting too fast. I think that was a problem with him as well this year. So finding that right balance. With IQ, I mean, just continuing on with the steady path that he's already been on. I think there are some things that he can clean up on. It sucks that we didn't get to see him fully play out the rest of the playoffs. He got hurt, so who knows what we could have saw. It didn't look. I mean, offensively, it didn't look as great as we thought it would look in the playoffs. But hopefully, we can see more of that continued development. And RJ, I mean, I mean, the playoffs are very encouraging. So like, just continuing on what we saw in the playoffs, just like that decisiveness, that like being ready from jump and playing consistent throughout, like just that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, RJ is just really, to me, it's about consistency. Like, and I mean, if you want a reasonable skill development, can you make a fucking shot off the dribble? Like, that's the thing. Like, we can, I think his decision making can improve, which would, if on the drive, that's not really a developmental skill. That's just like a mental fucking decision making thing. Can you make better decisions? But in terms of an actual skill he can develop or needs to develop, I mean, needs to develop. Let's be completely honest here. Needs to develop this is an ability to shoot off the dribble. I know he made some tough shots off the dribble in the playoffs, but I'd be lying to you if I said, oh, well, now that I saw that, I feel great about him being able to do that long term. He didn't do it last year at all. You can look up the numbers, his volume. He barely took them. He just stopped taking pull up threes, which is fine because he wasn't making them. But at some point, if you're not able to make them, that's a problem. You've got to be able to make that shot. And this is not any even like specific brand of off the dribble jumper. This is like make any type of off the dribble
One
jumper,
dribble pull up, two dribble pull up.
yeah, any of them. Like, make his mid range game doesn't exist. He doesn't have a mid range game. He has that little floater push shot he takes once he gets into the lane, even from a little bit further out. But he doesn't have a mid range pull up at all. He's not comfortable taking it. He's never been comfortable taking it. And that's a really big limitation for him as a scorer, because ultimately it means that the only shots he can create for himself are in the paint. And like, that's super valuable. It is. But it would be even more valuable if he could leverage that.
Up.
Yeah, if he could open it up in other ways, and he just hasn't done that yet. So that's, for me, it's like it's got to go from somewhere between non-existent. Like, he doesn't need to become Steph Curry, but he's got to become something, man. He's got to be more than this as an off the dribble shooter anyway. For quickly, I think offhand, I've been talking about this forever. Offhand ball handling, going to his left, all that type of stuff would be good. I think he has a habit of picking up his dribble. He got better at that this year, but he still has that habit of picking up his dribble when he's kind of at the free throw line, a little bit into the paint.
We saw it a little bit in the playoffs too, come rear its ugly head.
Yep. So he's got to clean that up. And honestly, aside from that, I think I would just say keep getting stronger. But offhand ball handling, offhand finishing, to me, those are like, if he can get to that point, he's going to be a really tough player to cover, because given his off the dribble shooting that you see from the perimeter anyway, and he just started doing a bit more in the mid range last year, which was good to see. It's just there. You're going to have he's going to be a nightmare cover for a lot of teams if he does that. Grimes, somebody said it in the chat. Oh yeah, this one right here from Aaron Bender. Yeah, Grimes sidestep 3 would be great. Pump fake sidestep 3 would be wonderful. You don't need to attack the rack at fucking 95 miles an hour or whatever. What does he do in Top Gun Maverick? 10 Mach 10? Yeah, he doesn't need to go Mach 10 to the fucking cup every single time. He needs to be able to get, that sidestep 3 would be good. Hell, even just a mid-range pull-up at times would be good. Like, it's okay if you read the defense and you realize, okay, I can't get to the bucket all the way. Let me just pull up here. So I think both the sidestep and the pull-up for him would be huge. And honestly, for for Mitch, I like that Obi's not even included in this anymore.
Everyone's like, bye, Obi.
Yeah. For Mitch, I mean, look, I think the shooting stuff it's never going to happen. It's fine. I'm fine with that. I've never needed that from him. I will just continue to want him to do the things that he started to be better at last year, set better screens. If he could start catching the ball a little bit more cleanly in traffic, that would be huge. I think developing any type of one dribble, pivot step, any type of move around the basket, couple of moves around the basket, doesn't need to be anything advanced, but yeah, when any type of move where because oftentimes, even if he gets a rebound, if he can't go straight up with it, he'll either try to like rush it and he takes a bad shot, or he just has to kick it out. If he could just be a little bit more calm, had anything in his bag to do around the rim, I think that would be a huge help for him and for us. So that would probably be my biggest one for him, and just continue to set better and better screens would be wonderful. Okay, this one is from Franklin Chubb. Who do you think you could hang out with for longer, Tyler Hero or Zach LaVine? How much of the resistance to adding LaVine to the Knicks is based on his personality / intangibles?
Wow. I don't know much about Zach LaVine personality wise. From what I've seen from Tyler Hero, he seems like he's very much close to insufferable and the type of person I'd avoid being around. Just based on what I've seen already. Also, he likes to wear do-rags and he has no reason to. So that alone is a reason why I would stay away from him. In terms of how much of the resistance to adding LaVine to the Knicks is based on his personality, intangibles, I would say it's probably based more on the intangibles with LaVine, just because I know I've seen some posts that have refuted his defensive liability, I guess, capabilities or whatever it may be. But like he has that reputation of, I guess, like being a more one-sided player. As well as just like, I guess he doesn't have the reputation of like having like playoff success, I would say too. And like that is something that fans really hold in high regard, especially with the type of players that we have on the team. Like Jalen Brunson, he's played really well in the playoffs. Julius Randle, not so much. So it's like, what type of player are we getting with Zach LaVine? And yeah, there's always that whole, stipulation of, the Chicago Bulls, the mid three that they have, and how
The real
far,
mid-three.
the real mid three, and how far, how not far they've come with that team and the top end talent that they've acquired. So there's a lot of those things and that cloud looming over why the Knicks should or shouldn't acquire Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Hero is, I could do. It would do wonders if the Knicks. If I knew for sure the Knicks would never, ever acquire him, that would be great. Who do I think I could hang out with for longer? Definitely Zach LaVine. From I think for all intents and purposes, everything I've heard from Zach LaVine off the floor is he's like fine. Like he seems like a nice guy. I think he's focused. He's like, it's weird because you would think that he's like apparently a gym rat. Like he's like a guy that really like works super hard.
Yeah, I remember seeing videos of him in the off season, like working out with his pops on the beach and shit like that. So like he's like always constantly working and shit.
Yeah, it's really weird because that's just not the vibe
that you get from a type of player from him.
Yeah, and it's also like, I remember when he got drafted, people were just like, I mean, the assumption was like he's like, what the fuck? But no, he's super, like he works really hard. I think he's like, I don't know. I've never heard anything bad about him off the floor. I've really never seen anything from him off the floor that I'm like, oh, this guy seems like such a fucking tool. Whereas I feel
Tyler Hero on the other end.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen so many things with them where I'm like, you're fucking loser. Wasn't he just? Didn't he get braided at one point? Tyler Hero, wasn't that a thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm making that up.
Nope, it happened. I remember.
Wait, that happened? That was real?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I think the world could have done without that one. I think recently he was wearing
a do-rag. Yeah, I just said like for that reason alone, I'd stay away from him. Like, what are you doing wearing that?
Yeah, that was odd. Again, to say the least. So I think Tyler Hero was won by fucking
landslide.
Mile. Yeah, landslide. How much of his resistance to adding LaVine is based on his personality intangibles? Again, like I don't think his personality is bad. I don't even know if I would say none of his at least his work ethic in terms of that. And if that's what you mean by intangibles, that's not a concern either. His decision making on the floor, just his kind of, he checks out on defense, his lack of focus, lack of attention to detail. That stuff is definitely concerning to me. And it's definitely, I think, what holds him back from being a real star, because his production is really good, but the impact isn't always there. And I think that's the part of it why his impact isn't always there. So, if there is resistance, that's definitely my hang up with it, because I think he just makes a lot of bad decisions at times. I think end of game decision making with them is a fucking adventure, to put it kindly. So yeah, that would be a big part of that. All right. This one is from It's Fat Helper. What is the most we could reasonably acquire with all of our protected picks?
Depends on who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with Masai Ujiri, then probably nothing.
Chris Boucher.
Exactly.
Masai.
Right. So I think it's like, it depends on who you're dealing with. Also, it feels like it's so weird because last offseason, like after the Rudy Gobert trade, like it felt like the whole NBA market reset. And now it feels like it's doing another reset this year, but like there's like stipulations as well, because like Bradley Beal, he had this whole no trade clause, so like he essentially got to pick where he wanted to go, so it was more so like a free agency kind of thing. And then you see like Chris Paul go for Jordan Poole and picks, so it's just like you don't know what the hell is the value now. I guess we'd have to wait to see another trade go down in terms of like, I guess, trying to gauge what value certain players are, I guess. But right now it's a shitstorm in the NBA, and the new CBA that just came out definitely doesn't help things. So
Yeah, I think if I were to guess, I would guess that the value of protected picks and all picks have gone up with the new CBA and as we go through it. So I think in that sense, the Knicks are probably in a better position, even if some of those individual picks are weaker than they looked a year ago, like the Wizards pick or whatever it is, any of those picks. I think they could probably get somebody pretty good, but the thing that's weird with this is like you also have to consider what salary you're attaching it to. So like you're not going to be able to get like a good $40 million player by like RJ Barrett and Fournier and 4 protected first round picks. You're probably not going to get the type of guy you want. Now, that being said, is there a world where like the Clippers are just like, we want to get off of this deal as much as we can, and if we can get RJ and 4 protected first round picks for Paul George, let's just fucking do it? Sure, maybe you can do that. But realistically, I think it's a guy like, Keldon Johnson at 20 million a year, or maybe Anthony Simons if the Blazers decide to keep Dame and they just want to get whatever they can for Simons. Like maybe it's something like that. Like I don't think you're going to get a star, but I think you can get a pretty good player from it. I mean, the Celtics got Derek White a year ago for what I believe was an unprotected pick that year, which they conveyed, and it was like whatever, it was 28th pick or something, and a first round pick swap in 2028. So like, I mean, they got a good player in Derek White who was locked up for I think 3 more years at the time. For I don't know how you want to value those things, but I would say somewhat equivalent price to what the Knicks could offer. At least, I mean, honestly, I think 4 protected picks the Knicks have is worth more than what Boston offered there. But the point is, I think you can get that type of player, like not a superstar, but somebody who's talented, somebody who can be a really solid piece of your rotation. So if you don't think it's Keldon, that's fine. Maybe it could be, but it's somebody in that type of range, I think, is what you can get for those picks. This is from Spare One. How did so many fans in the span of basically a month regress back to thinking that Julius isn't a losing player?
time, just time itself. People just forget. Apparently, I haven't forgot though. I'll never forget. So there's that. I don't know though.
Wow.
But I think it's just time.
Don't ever forgive him, huh?
Look, this is what I did. I gave him the whole regular season, and then I was like, you know what? You did your thing, Julius. Then in the playoffs, came and took a fat, hot, steaming pile of shit on us for like all of that. So, it's right back to where we were before.
Yeah, I think with this, I think some of this is the fact that it feels like they're not going to trade Randall. So it's not
people
so
just
much
like talking themselves into like, this is what we're stuck with. So like,
I don't even know if people are talking themselves into it as much as they're just like, at least for me, it's like I can spend another fucking 4 months. I could spend my next 4 months not just talking about hypothetical Randall trades like I did last summer and lose my mind over it, or I can just accept that in all likelihood he's not going to get traded and talk about shit that might actually happen. And like if he gets traded, cool, great, I'll worry about it then. But until that point, I don't see that happening. And so for me, the purpose of it is more like, okay, let's just
be more productive.
Yeah, not even just be more productive, but like, okay, how can if I'm gonna spend time, if I'm gonna waste my time, really, I'm gonna waste time coming up with random shit that the Knicks could do, might do, will do, whatever. I'd rather waste it doing on things that may have a chance of happening, not things that I wish would happen. And so, like, I think that's where a lot of fans are, where it's like, whatever I think of Julius, like, look, I know he was hurt in the playoffs. I don't think all of his issues were injury related. There was probably, I'm sure there was some of that though. But like, the reality is, I don't see him being traded. So it doesn't really matter what I think. And I can spend the next 3 months screaming and yelling and ranting and raving about how we need to move Julius and they have to trade Julius. But like, if they don't agree with that, which I don't think they do, then I'm just gonna fucking talk about other shit because I'd rather do that. And if he gets traded, I'll talk about it then. But until then,
And we'll pop bottles and say Mazel Tov.
yeah, and until then, I just don't think there's a point to doing it. So, yeah, that's really all it is. At least for me, anyway.
It's about being productive with the time that you waste.
Yeah, with all our loved ones. This one is from Jax365. You are Leon Rose. Portland calls about a Randall trade. Would you trade him? And if you did, what package would you ask for?
I think you basically start with Simons, right? Am I wrong there? Like,
it's the only thing you can really get from them player wise.
Yeah, that we want. Sense. Yeah, I mean, like you ask for Simons and then you just like go from there. Like you build the trade off from there. Definitely don't take Cam Reddish back, and you don't have to worry about that because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent because he's not worth shit. So yeah, had to get that in there. But yeah, you basically start with Simons and then go from there. Like I don't know what else they have that we want, but
yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Simons, and then it has to be picks. They owe some type of lotto protected pick to Chicago through 2025. So whatever verbiage you want to use to get a couple firsts from them in the future, I would need at least one of those unprotected, and I would want the other one lightly protected because I'm basically trading Julius for Simons, who makes no sense on this roster, by the way.
Yeah. But like that's the only thing that you can get that's like sort of an asset that you can like flip into something else later.
Yeah, and again, like even if you want to say, well, you can trade Simons yourself, okay, fine, but I have to do that. I have to go find the deal. I have to you fucking do that for me, and then trade me that shit. Like I don't know. That's what I would honestly. That's what I would tell them. Be like, look, you give me a couple first, I'm fine with that. But you figure all I want for Simons, give me some expiring contract and picks. Get me a young player on a similar contract to that, plus a pick or something like that. In addition to the picture you give me, I'll consider that. But I'm not sitting here wasting my time trying to figure out, oh, well, you give me Simons and stuff and I'll figure out something. Like, no, you fucking do that shit for me. And we can make a 3-way trade. Until then, don't bother fucking calling me. But they have nothing else I want. And there's no, like, would I be interested in Shaden Sharp? Sure. But, like, are they going to trade him?
And do we have time to, like, wait for Shaden Sharp's, like,
yeah, I mean, this is the reality is like you have Brunson on this deal and forget the deal that Brunson's on and forget the contract he's on. Brunson is just really fucking good right now. Like, do you really
make the most of this window?
Yeah. Do you want to waste time while he's on this? Forget the contract. Do you want to waste time with him playing at the level he's at for the years he's going to be in New York? Playing long-term potential games with prospects? No, I don't want to do that. I don't think
we're past that stage now.
Yeah, and I think, quite frankly, if you did that, if I were Brunson, I'd be like, that's fucking insulting.
Slap in the face to him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's insulting to me. So they can't do that. So they need to make a trade and probably try to flip that into something else. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, the Portland thing, if there was no deal on draft night for like the third pick and and Simons or whatever salary, and there wasn't for good reason, but that's really the only thing they have that I would be interested in because I don't want fucking Dame here. I don't want Simons really. I mean, I like Simons, but I don't really want him here. So yeah, I don't really see it. This one is from ZMP323 again, company man hater. Thoughts on Prez eviscerating Bondi yesterday?
I am not privy to this information, so
my thoughts are that Bondi was fishing. I gotta say, this entire beat is so. Not the entire beat, I guess. Not the entire.
Most of them are very bored.
They're very bored. and they don't seem to have much going on other than talking about CAA, fucking, the Knicks and CAA and this fucking web that's being weaved. And oh my God, Rich Paul doesn't want to send Zach Levine to New York and all this shit. There's a report today that came out that OG Anunoby is signing with CAA. And like, I think Popper and Hahn and Berman all, quote tweeted it very cryptically. And it's like, this is really all you guys have?
They don't realize how closely they are similar to QAnon people. Like, they really don't realize how fucking insane they look on the internet doing that shit. But I mean, hey, this is what old people like to do when they're bored. So,
I just don't want to. I'm like, if all you think that ever happens with the Knicks is like they just are sitting around and they're like, all right, let's take out the CAA Rolodex here and see what clients we can get. Like, it's ridiculous.
They sit at like those, those memes of like the New World Order. They probably have like an image of like the Knicks front office just sitting at one of those round tables with a giant CAA in the middle.
They're basically just like the Freemasons. No, I mean, I tweeted this out this morning, but like, there's people that are crazy about like, oh, the Knicks and CAA, the Knicks and fucking Kentucky guys, the Knicks and Villanova guys. And it's like, guys, if you just look around the fucking league, this roster, like the things they've done aren't that crazy. They're just really not. Like, for example, these are their draft picks. Okay. Obi went to Dayton. He's CAA. Quickly went to Kentucky, not CAA. Grimes went to Houston, not CAA. Rokas, obviously still in Europe, but he plays for FC Barcelona, not CAA. Or sorry, he is CAA. Deuce, West Virginia, not CAA. Sims, Texas, not CAA.
He was clutch when we drafted him. Like,
yeah, he was. He was. And Keels Duke, not CAA. Like, so 5 of their 7 draft picks are not CAA.
WW.
And only 1 of their 7 draft picks went to Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky Knicks. Like, the most players they've had from Kentucky on the roster is when they first took over.
Yeah.
And they got rid of they moved on from Knox last season, right? And they moved on from Noel at the end of last season. And they had 2 Kentucky guys in the team last year. Like, the fucking Lakers had more Kentucky guys in their roster last year. Fucking Kings had more. They had Fox, they had Monk, and they had Trey Lyles. They all went to Kentucky.
Kentucky Kings.
Like, Anthony Davis went to Kentucky. Who else went to Kentucky on this team? I always forget.
I mean, like, it's just like a higher probability of guys playing in Kentucky being on an NBA roster, anyways, because like they like run the fucking NBA. Like, John Calipari is like an NBA, like he just churns out NBA players. Like,
yeah, like
that's just what it is.
I don't really understand what people want with this either. It's like, so apparently, like, the only way the Knicks, just to avoid, like, I want to make this clear, so like, the Knicks can't sign or trade or acquire CAA players. They can't sign and trade or acquire Kentucky players. And now the new addition to this is we can't sign and trade and acquire Villanova guys because we did it and it worked. And it's like, well, it worked, right? So
don't get good basketball players, guys. That's just
I don't get it.
What
like,
do you want the Knicks to do? No.
I mean, the funny thing is they had more Duke guys in the roster last year than fucking any other school. And I don't see anybody saying like
fucking ass.
Yeah. And I don't see anybody being like, oh my God, the fucking Duke connection on this team, it's out of control. Like, who's saying that? And we know they want Zion. Like, that's been a thing forever, right? Like,
despite everything that.
Yeah, and Zion, just gonna throw this out there. Like he played for Duke. Like, he didn't play for Kentucky or Villanova. It's stupid. And it's like, oh, do they want Zion because he's a CAA client? Like, is that what we're gonna do? Where it's like,
the Knicks want good basketball players. That's what they want.
Yeah, like, we can't get like, let's say Zion by some miracle is healthy next year, and for some reason David Griffin is drunk and he's like, I want to trade them. I want to trade Zion right now to the Knicks. Should the Knicks be like, you know what? Thank you for the offer, but he is a CAA client, and so therefore we're not interested. Like, it makes no sense to me. It is the biggest agency in the league. There are more players represented by CAA than any other agency in the league. So if you're saying that like, and the other thing I don't understand is people are like, well, Leon Rose is brought here to use his connections. And it's like, okay, well, he signed Jalen Brunson. And it's like, oh, that doesn't count because like that's basically his family. And I'm like, that is a fucking connection. Like, I don't know if you know this, but you should try to work in like, corporate America or anywhere in the world.
Networking. It's called
Yeah.
networking, people.
That's how that works.
That's how you be successful in
That's
life.
how you use your connections. And it's like, I don't really know. People are like, oh, well, they hired his dad. And it's like, yes, that is the point. You're making the point right now. You're actually doing the right. You just did it. You pointed out the connections they used to get Jalen
People act like
Brunson
these
in
things are
there.
like illegal. Like they're like dealing drugs or something under the table to get these players. Like,
And it's just crazy. Like, what are they? The only fucking team in the NBA using connections? You think, oh, Anthony Davis signs with Clutch and Rich Paul, and all of a sudden he's demanding out of New Orleans with the Lakers at the top of his fucking wish list. Like, this just happened, by the way. This is not like a thing that, like, he was not a Rich Paul client forever. This is a thing that happened. And what am I supposed to believe? So that's fine. The Lakers doing that is fine. And the Lakers having a bunch of clutch guys on the team is fine. But if the Knicks do it with CAA, it's like somehow much
the devil.
worse and it's evil. And it's like, and they've signed and traded for clutch guys. Like, they traded for Cam Reddish. They traded a first round pick for Cam Reddish. And they gave him a shot. He sucked and he got benched rightfully. And his minutes when he got benched, they didn't go to a bunch of CAA guys. They went to guys that had nothing to do with CAA. They went to Quickly. They went to Grimes. They went to Deuce McBride. By the way, all three players picked by the Knicks who were not CAA. And that's who benefited from him being excised from the rotation, along with Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier. I mean, you go back and you look at the 2021 summer that they spent all their money in. Evan Fournier, not CAA. Derrick Rose, not CAA. Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel,
Alec
Burks. You go down the list. Literally, I think they signed 6 or 7 guys. Kemba. None of those guys are CAA. Not a single one. Not a single one was CAA. I think the summer before they signed Austin Rivers, right? He's CAA. He must have been golden, right? He must have fucking killed it in New York. He got benched. He got pulled out of the rotation because they traded for Derrick Rose.
See, if you're CAA, you probably shouldn't sign here because you're going to get benched for guys that are not CAA.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh, OBCA, has he benefited from that in New York?
No.
Has that been a huge thing for him? It's just stupid. This entire thing is dumb. People just want to find connections. I'll tell you this. If you want to play the connections with agents game, you can go to any team in the league and you can look at who
the Pacers have 5 CAA guys, by the way.
Yeah, but that's fine because that's the other thing too. Is like, oh, well, they took Obi because he's CA, and it's like Tyrese Halliburton is CA. Everybody apparently we committed a crime by not drafting him. But like, why did they just draft him if he was CAA and that's all that matters? Like, I don't understand how
people
this
are bored.
Works.
That's what it is. It's just too many people are bored. It's the off season and people need something to talk about.
Well, speaking of talking about things, got the real hot take here. I hate Cat, but I think we should trade Randall for him.
Oh, hell no.
I like, this is just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Like, it's just the better the devil you know.
I need a shot if that happens.
I can't do the Cat thing. I can't the Cat thing where he's like, he's super corny and he
does the fake tough guy shit. Like,
what was that? Remember what was that interview where he's like trying to sound like
he made his voice deeper?
Yeah, he made his voice deeper. The Cat thing is just Cat is something bad. He's
oh my gosh.
The thing is, he's like it's what drives me nuts about him is he's like so talented. What was it? A couple years ago, right? He made third team All NBA. He predicted to make All NBA that year, and I still came away from that season being like, I have zero faith in this guy. Like, I just can't do it. And I mean, this is why
I think it was the playoffs. Was it the playoffs after that?
Yeah, he had that series against Memphis, and he's like, he did something in that because they lost in game. They lost. I remember they lost in 6, right? But they lost game 5 on the road in Memphis. I remember he did something where like he hit a big 3 in the 4th quarter to put them up like 10 or something. I think he might have done like the be quiet to the crowd or something like that. And
they lost the lead.
Yeah, they lost the game, and I was just like, this is terrible. No, Cat is just, I can't do the Cat thing. Cat's that's true. Cat's playing win was more impressive than championship. That was a great all-time quote. Couldn't believe that one. It's just, I don't know. Also, can I just say that the idea that the Knicks shouldn't, like, if the Knicks just didn't draft Kentucky guys, just be like, no, we can't. Like, they tried to trade up for Maxey, who I think everybody loves, and they drafted quickly, who was clearly worth the 25th pick in the draft. Like, so we just can't draft those guys because they went to Kentucky. It just Jesus.
Can't
I
get good
don't.
players.
Yeah, we
Can't get
can't
good
do that.
players.
Yeah, no. I will get Cat. Cat would be. I'll say this, man. If they signed Cat, y'all would have content for me for fucking years.
I'd probably be drinking live on stream after every game.
it could drive you to do that. All right, this one is from Prez, who of course has the most serious question. Pre All Star break last season, Hartenstein assist percentage was 6. Post All Star break, it was 14. Playoffs, it was 10. With the Clippers, it was 20. How much are the Knicks going to let iHeart cook and pass next year? Probably the same. Like, I feel like they did find something with him.
They found a right balance.
Yeah, or at least they found a better balance with him after the All Star break. Maybe that can tick. I mean, it can tick up a little bit more. I will say though, like, I like his passing. I think it's valuable. But if you lean into it too much, he does think he's Jokic sometimes, and
Turnovers.
Yeah, like some of the outlets he makes,
and like if guys aren't cutting too, I feel like it doesn't help that much because like there are some guys like he can play with on the court. Like Deuce was cutting actively, Grimes cuts actively. So when he plays with certain guys, it pops a little bit more just because like guys are moving. He's able to find them on shit. So it's like, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think if they let him cook a little bit more, I think it really doesn't need to be much. I really thought they found a good balance towards the end of the year. And I think the nice thing with him is him and Mitch are really tight. So it actually does feel like genuine. I know he's in a contract here this year, but just from the way he plays, like I just can't see that guy being like pissed off if he's playing like shit and he gets his minutes pulled a little bit.
I mean, he was one of the people that took accountability when he was playing like shit early on in the season, and he pulled it together and turned the season around.
Yeah, no, he did. He was awesome. All right, this one is from G Baked. This is kind of related to the earlier question, but I think this is it's different enough. I think it's worth discussing. What do IQ and Grimes need to improve on to be considered star players? I would say for quickly, a lot of it is I think he needs more minutes. But more than that, like don't start the season off with like a month and a half long cold streak. That would help a lot. And more or less just like I think if he's got to just continue to iron out his decision making on the ball, because I think there are times where he isn't sure, should I pull up from 3? Should I drive? And he makes the wrong decision, or he picks up his dribble or whatever it is. So I just think he needs more reps and he needs a little bit more, probably more opportunity. Now, whether he's going to get the opportunity in New York or not, I don't know. But he has gotten a lot of opportunity in New York, whether we might not like how it's come about or the process of it all, but he has played quite a bit. He has gotten he has featured prominently at times. For most of last season, he was like the 6th guy, which apparently is a reason why you're not allowed to be the 6th man. So I just think for him, a lot of it is just reps and opportunity. And if he can iron out those ugly moments and stretches for him, that would be huge. But other than that, I mean, he's just really like he's super in shape. He's never gets tired. It doesn't seem like so. Yeah,
the double OT game, and he was just like another walk in the park.
Yeah, he was chilling. So, for Grimes, but fucking dribble, like just dribble a lot and
just find the right balance between, like I said earlier, like attacking the closeouts, like decision making, stuff like that. Like there was so many times where like it was, oh my gosh, like the drives off of the closeouts, and like he would like drive into like traffic, and like some of these passes that he would make when like it seemed like he had a layup, like just a lot of questionable moments from him. Just cleaning up those things, I would say. Like you said earlier about like, possibly having that mid-range game too, like off those, like he doesn't always have to drive off of off of those fakes, the side steps, and just like overall consistency, because like I feel like there was a lot of hot and cold streaks with him, which is gonna happen generally with shooters, but like you said, I think dribbling will also help a bunch as well.
Yeah, I think he just needs to improve his improving his handle is like that's where it has to start because if he doesn't have that, then there's just no ability for him to become a star. Um, like that, and again, for him, it's just like it's hard to be considered a star if you're going to be like a 14, 15 usage type guy. Like he needs more shots, he needs more opportunities. So, again, is that going to happen in New York? I don't know, but to at least even have that opportunity, he's going to have to improve his dribbling, his off the dribble game, and he's got to make serious strides there for sure. Because if he does, look, some of the passes and shit that he threw last year were really, really impressive. So he's got vision. He just doesn't have the overall skill set yet to completely leverage it. So for him, I think that's the biggest, or at least that's where it needs to start. Um, this one is from Zebo187. If Manuel quickly and the Knicks can't agree to an extension, do you think Leon trades him this summer or lets him hit restricted free agency next summer? What extension number do you think Leon draws the line at? Secondly, how does Grimes' extension factor into if Quickly gets paid since he's 1 year behind Quickly on extension and RFA?
Wow. That's a lot there. Let me start with the first part. I would say, do you think Leon trades him this summer? This is tough because like we know that the front office like obviously values Quickly, like, and especially after the surge that he took late in the year. I need some time to think on this actually. Shwin, you might have a more.
Yeah,
Because I haven't looked at anything off season related ever since like the last live stream we did. So
I think I would guess that they would still keep him because if they want to keep him, right? So if they want to keep him, I don't think they would be scared off of him not agreeing to an extension this offseason because I would guess they would feel like, well, we want to keep him and we still have the leverage here because he's a restricted free agent, not a unrestricted free agent. Is a team really going to come in here and blow us out of the water to a point that we won't match this deal? I would guess they would play that out. As far as, would they, what number I think he draws the line at? It's really hard to say, but just looking at the numbers, I think anything above like you'd have to think 110, something around that 22 million a year mark would be the absolute highest they would go. I don't think they would go beyond that. Just looking at the financials and the new CBA and everything, I feel like that is the upper crust of what they would like to offer him or what they would be comfortable offering him. I think he will get paid. I do think he'll get an extension this year because I think ultimately the Knicks want to keep him for right now. And I think if they want to trade him, he's much more useful to them once they pay him next offseason. Like once his contract hits next offseason, when he's on a higher salary, he's a lot more useful and a lot easier to trade in an even in a way that makes sense than it does right now. Grimes' extension, I mean, it definitely factors in. I would be lying to you if I said I'd crunched the numbers enough to feel comfortable enough to have an idea of this. And there's also so many moving pieces
Parts.
when you're looking 2 years down the line, like if they trade fucking RJ and Fournier's expiring for a big contract, if Randall goes down a trade at some point, or if they move Mitch, or fucking in 2 years. The other part is, if they keep Randall and Brunson, both those guys could opt out and look for big money contracts at that point. So there's a lot of moving parts there, and I don't know if I can answer that comfortably. What I will say is, to me personally, I think Quickly and Grimes are the type of role players that you should really value in retaining, and they're different to me than a guy like, well, OB is just different because they just clearly We're
Don't give a
never.
fuck about him.
Well, they'll never have the role for him. If they're committed to Randall, there's just no way. If they're committed to Randall and they're committed to Tibbs, there's no way for Obi to to carve out a big enough role for him here. So they should move on from him. But RJ's not really a role player, so he just doesn't compare to those guys in that sense. I think Josh Hart is kind of similar, but especially quickly, I still think has the ability to, his good games I think are very different to somebody like Josh Hart's. It's Josh Hart's best games, where quickly's best nights he can drive your offense. Hart's never gonna have a game like that. And we saw what Grimes can do defensively, obviously in the playoffs. I just think what they can do and their ability to impact the game at lower usage, and in Quickly's case, impact the game at higher and lower usages, says volumes about them as players. But yeah, that's my thought. I don't know if I gave you time to agree or think about any of this shit, but
not really. I think I need a lot more time to think about it, just because I haven't looked at anything. I haven't looked at much of any Knicks. I've took a Knicks sabbatical ever since the last playoff game that we played in, which I think has been done wonders for my mental. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually, I'm sure that probably helped a lot. All right, this one again is from Franklin Chubb. If you were designing an advanced metric to determine how much of an asshole a player is, what kind of quantifiable things would it take into account?
Wow.
Cultural appropriation.
Definitely. Definitely.
That'd be one for me.
That would be one for me as well. Corniness. Like if you're corny and how you approach that corniness.
Yeah, I think that one's good. I think how I don't know how corny you are is one, but how if it feels like you're being genuine or you're putting on, are you genuine? I guess if you're real,
if
that
you're being
matters.
fake.
Yeah, if you're being fake or not. If you are an asshole to your teammates,
that's a big one.
I think that's a pretty big one. If you're coachable, are you coachable?
Yeah.
Do you actually take on instruction, or do you do that? Do you accept responsibility? Is probably my biggest one.
I would also say yeah, like that. Yeah, I was thinking accountability in that term. And then what you call it? I'm trying to think of I'm thinking of a certain player that we have on our team and with things that they've done. I would say how you approach, I guess, fans and that type of thing, how you approach your own fan base. How do you approach fans in general? When things are going well or things are not going well. How do you approach that? I think that would be a key thing right there.
Yeah, I think we hit on.
Yeah, I think we hit on all the most parts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, just is your social media activity normal or is it cringy? Is it cringe? Is it weird? Is it awkward? Or is it you're fine? You just do normal shit on there? Which I think for the most part, most Knicks are pretty normal on social media. How fans react to the things they do on social media, a little bit more abnormal.
Yes.
A little bit more abnormal. What is the worst package you would accept? This from It's Fat Halpert again, by the way. What is the worst package you would accept in a trade for RJ? How about, it is really good. How about Randall?
Worst package I would accept for trade for RJ. Yo, where's Tyrese? This is Tyrese's thing, man.
Sam froze. Unfortunate. Are you there?
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
Am I here?
Maybe it was me. I don't know. You're here. You're here.
Okay. I feel like Tyrese is the best person to come up with these things for RJ, especially, and Randall. He came up with I forgot what it was, Mason Plumlee or some shit in second round picks for Randall. That's the type of shit Tyrese comes up with. For RJ, man, the worst package I would accept. this is tough because like you could go like really like bottom of the barrel and like you can go like, all right, am I thinking of like RJ at this point in the year or like are we talking RJ after the playoffs? Like, man, those are different worst packages right there. You get what I'm saying, Shwin?
Yeah, I think for RJ, I would do something like I don't know. For RJ, I think I would want expiring. I'd need like expiring. The worst. This is such a weird question because it's the worst. It's the
You
worst
could
thing
literally
you
go
could trade RJ
exactly.
for,
You could
right?
like get
So,
like bottom of the barrel with it.
expiring contracts and like picks. Is that? Would I go away? Did I die?
Now you're good.
Oh, um, oh wow. I just saw that. Um, I think it's like expiring contracts and like I don't know a
Second round
first.
picks. Oh,
I don't know if
I
I
see.
would
I
do
was
that.
going. I was going real bottom of the barrel. See, that's the thing with the worst package. You could go like really bad. Like,
Yeah,
see,
but
Tyrese Spears
it's what
going
I would
Kelly
accept.
Oubre and Bryce McGowan's. Like, what the?
Yeah, but that's what Tyrese would accept. Gordon Hayward's expiring contract for him, right? Like he would
Tyrese
just
would
want to.
accept a mayonnaise sandwich,
Yeah, as long
like
as it
just
gets him off the
straight
contract, that's
mayonnaise.
all he wants. I would want at least some type of value out of it. Like I couldn't just be like, oh, just salary dump him. For Randall, I mean, same type of deal. I'd probably want more first for him than I want for RJ because he's a 2-time All NBA guy. But I mean, I think they're both like similar type of deals, like expiring contracts. If I get some type of like interesting young player
Yeah, I
in
was
the
about to say
deal,
young player maybe.
that would be okay. And then a pick for RJ, a couple picks for Randall. That that's probably the worst package I'd trade them for right now, especially
Pay,
Randall.
would you like trade him for like Peyton Pritchard and like another expiring contract
No,
and a
no,
first?
no, I would not. I would not do that. Um, I'm not trading him to Boston. If I did, yeah, that'd be terrible. Be awful.
Trading a black guy to Boston. Oh man,
Yeah, not doing that. Just cruel.
especially for a
everyone.
white guy.
Yeah.
I don't think their fans are gonna be too happy about that.
This one is from Duder Adam. Each of you go out on a limb and predict a, to this point unreported, free agent joining a new team.
Oh man, unreported. Damn, because there's a lot of reports going around. Especially now that we're getting closer and closer to free agency. Who's a free agent? Let me look at the free agents actually.
Look at this guy. I think this is a tough question. I just looking at this list, like I feel like D'Angelo Russell could end up somewhere where you don't expect, just because I don't know what his market's going to be. Harrison Barnes, another one, like he could end up in a lot of different.
I was
places.
just looking at his name, like Harrison
I don't know if
Barnes.
I don't know if this has been reported or not, so let's throw it out there. Jeremy Grant to the Kings, kind of like that. I think that'd be an interesting one.
Placing Harrison Barnes at the 4.
Yeah, Harrison. Okay. So you replace Harrison Barnes. I think he's an overrated defender, but he's definitely a better defender than than most of their fucking team, and definitely better than this version of Harrison Barnes. So I like that. I think I'll go with that one. Jeremy Grant to the Kings.
Man, I'm looking at some of these names and I'm like thinking like all the names that I've seen reported already. And it's like all of these guys I've seen reported. Karis LeVert to pick a name out of a hat. Karis LeVert to the Blazers.
Karis LeVert to the Blazers?
Yeah, just randomly.
That's your big one?
Yep.
Wow, that's really exciting.
I'm just thinking of the Blazers like just looking at like names of guys on teams and they're just like, hey, let's get this guy. He might help us win some games.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Karis LeVert is known to trick people, so
Grant Williams would be one. I think he could end up in a lot of places. He'd be good for a lot of teams too, so keep an eye on him. All right, this is the last one from the Discord. This is from our beloved Jerry Garcia, aka James Marcita. How much slander can you muster for Zach LaVine? I'd love a good 3 to 5 minutes on why he sucks. I've talked a lot about Zach LaVine, so I'm just going to leave this up to you.
Me?
Yeah, this is all you.
How much slander on why he sucks? Like, I don't even like. First of all, he sucks because he plays for the Bulls, and all their players suck. So there's that. My hatred for I don't have hatred for Zach LaVine, honestly. I have hatred for the other guy on the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan, that fucking playoff choker. I can go 10 hours slandering DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine, I have very like little hate in my heart for the butter skin man. But I don't know, like did that almost make you choke?
Did you have a little hate in your heart for Butterskin Man? Good to hear.
I can come up with things on the fly, but it's not as much as I have for like DeMar DeRozan because like my hate for him is like eternal. But Zach LaVine, like I don't know, sucks on defense. Like I don't know, I just don't have it in me for Zach LaVine. Like I don't. Sadly,
I have done a lot of Zach LaVine slander in my life. Up to this year, I thought he's definitely a losing player, just a career loser. His teams lose everywhere he goes. I think he's been in 4 playoff games for his career, which is
it's crazy.
It's a stat. I don't know. He just is not my.
He's something.
He's not my personal brand of baller, you might call it. But I don't know if I really hate him in the same way that I hate a lot of like 99% of the NBA. So, all right, let's move on to questions from the chat here. We're going to start at the top.
Oh,
so this is from Nemo Petiter. Nemo, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well over in France, and I hope your boy Wemby does well in San Antonio. Far away from us, thankfully. One question: there seems to be potential harsh sanctions for leaking info about the free agency before the end of the moratorium, like July 6th or whatever the hell the end of the moratorium is. Does it mean we'll be in the dark for most probable signings in the league to that point, or the usual shams and Woj leaks happen? I think those leaks will still happen. What won't happen, I'm assuming, I guess, is the type of tweets where
it's all but confirmed.
Yeah, well, they do the tweets where Woj will say like per so and so's agent or this so and so's agency.
They're going to meet with so and so on a potential this many years, this many amount.
Yeah, you'll still get the contract details, but all the like
the verbiage will be
all the gross like fellatio that Woj does in his tweets will be gone.
He'll have to hold off on it for a couple days.
Yeah, it's like Austin Brown of CA negotiated this masterful deal for his client. Like, all right, buddy, relax. Like, he's gonna have to slow down on those, but you'll still get those reports for sure. Also, this was him. Also, by curiosity, I stumbled into. Oh, sorry, let me pull it up. Jeez. What the hell? Also, by curiosity, I stumbled into the SPED's term in the CBA. I guess it's about enhancing drugs, but I can't find the whole acronym nor the list of products tested. I don't know if that's a question, so I'm gonna move on.
I think it leads into the next part of his comment.
Oh, here. I've been wondering if Wemby turnaround about going to the FIBA World Cup was the fact he could be tested for substances prohibited by FIBA, but okay in the NBA. That's interesting. Wow. That is pretty interesting. It could be. I would imagine it's also because he's a gigantic human being, and they are trying to do everything they can to preserve him and make sure he's good to go. But yeah, it's possible. That's actually a pretty interesting idea. So yes,
I think he's also going to be playing in Summer League. I saw like a headline today. He might play that in one of those games starting July 7th. So that could also be a reason too.
Yes, it could be. Definitely. He's not playing in FIBA though. So
I think maybe he was going to, but
he was going to. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. All right. Hold on. This one is from Jordan Bub. One question is, if the Dante DiVincenzo acquisition signals the Knicks making a roster shakeup, whom will the Knicks trade for and why? And who on the current roster will suffer a major minute reduction? Um, I'll let you answer this because I have
I don't
pretty
know who they.
definitive thoughts on this.
So I don't know who they trade for. I think we all know that Obi most likely will be the one going out, just based on all the reports that we've heard. Um, I don't know. I don't know who they trade for, but I feel like Shwin, you might have an answer of who they might trade for.
I don't know who they trade for. I mean, I
Oh,
have
okay.
ideas. I think
Yeah,
they
he is.
have.
Okay.
I mean, we've been linked with going back to last year, right? They were interested in Donovan Mitchell. We know that they talked about Zach LaVine at the trade deadline with the Bulls. Apparently, there's still interest there to the point that Rich Paul felt the need to put out a hit piece via bald fucking loser Stefan Bondi of the New York Daily News, who is a nepotism baby and fucking sucks at his job. But the other one is obviously Paul George, which is who they've been linked to recently. Like, look, I don't know. I don't know how a trade would go down. You can look at the roster, you can do the math. There are various machinations to get there. To me, all the signs that points to is that's RJ Barrett. Like that is who the guy they think they can upgrade on. If you look at any of
Yeah.
those moves, I mean, he was included, he was in the offer for Donovan Mitchell. We know that.
And
So
now
my,
he has the salary to
yeah.
sort of go in those deals.
Yeah, he has
Now.
the salary where it's an easy move to put him in those deals. And like we know that they valued and coveted Grimes, keeping Grimes in that deal. So I don't think he would go out. And honestly, like, and I talked about this with Alex on the pod yesterday, or that we dropped today anyway. And like, I just don't like, yeah, you can come up with salary constructions that are like Quickly and Obi and Hartenstein and
And
Fournier.
Fournier.
But like, what exactly? So then RJ is going to be the fourth option. Like, how does that make sense? Because we already saw it. He was the fourth option for like a month and a half, his second year in the league or his third year in the league, and he wasn't particularly good at it. The team wasn't particularly good during that time, and he was miserable, and fans were miserable. And like, why would you? Like,
Do that again.
He's not a role player. Like he's not. He doesn't do role player things. Maybe he'll have a Wiggins moment at some point in his career and start doing more of the small things. But right now, he's not geared that way. He doesn't do role player things. So like asking him to all of a sudden be like, okay, we traded Quentin Grimes. Now please be Quentin Grimes.
Oh God.
That doesn't, or like,
God.
or whatever the logic is. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, and it's like, oh, we're gonna bench Quentin Grimes in a scenario like this, or what? Oh, we're gonna bench RJ. Like it just none of this makes any sense. It just you have way too many moving pieces, and in a trade like that, let's say if they do sign DiVincenzo, right? So in this scenario where they sign DiVincenzo and they make a trade like that, okay, so now how are you filling your backup point guard role? How are you filling your backup center role? If your answer is Deuce McBride and Jericho Sims, that's cool.
I have a bridge to sell you.
I also just think like if that's what they did, I would be fairly confident this team is a play-in team next year at best. I think they would take a really serious step back. I think the balance of the roster would be totally off, and I think you would waste a year. And I think you'd need to do major reconstruction to get balance back in the team in terms of finding role players and getting guys that can do those small things. It just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. And that's, I mean, no, I don't think the Knicks have to make a move. I mean, I think in some ways, I think they have to make a move, but they don't literally have to make a move. They don't have to trade RJ Barrett. They don't have to do anything this offseason. They can choose to run it back. But I would much rather run it back than like make a move that sacrifices your depth and creates roster imbalance or whatever. That's not appealing to me. And then, like, if you think about Dante DiVincenzo as a player, I mean, if you trade RJ Barrett and Fournier and Obi or whatever, if those are your player salaries going out in a trade and you bring in DiVincenzo, I mean, if it is LaVine, if it is Paul George, whoever, one of those two guys, I think your rotation makes a lot of sense, at least, especially if it's Paul George. Like, is it small? Sure. But, you know, I think having a basic like 9-man grouping of Brunson, Grimes, PG, Randall, Mitch, and then quickly DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, that makes sense to me. You would like a little bit more size.
Yeah.
You'd like you would like to add something else in the front court for sure, but I don't think that's a necessity. I don't think it's a given. I think you can get by with that for a little bit and consider how it plays out and then try to make moves in the margins in the regular season to address it. All right, here's another one from Jordan Bub. Which player in the current roster has more of a chance to not be on the roster for opening night, excluding Obi Toppin, Evan Fournier, two-way players, Isaiah Roby, Daquan Jeffries?
Man, I would say RJ for the reasons that we just like kind of spoke about in terms of him going out in a trade. Yeah, I mean RJ. I mean he's the one that they, like you said, all the trade rumors have been at that wing spot, that starting wing spot. His salary makes the most sense in terms of going out and sacrificing the least amount of depth. So it's him, I would say. Other than that, I really don't know. Like Deuce McBride, like I guess, like I don't know. Like after that, like it just feels like RJ is the most obvious answer here. I would like to say Julius Randle, but like no, that's not even remotely close to having a chance of being the case. So
yeah, I think it's RJ. I've been pretty consistent on this going back to last month or 2 months or whatever. I think it's RJ. I think they've kind of showed their hand a little bit in terms of some of the guys they've been linked to in the last year or so. I also think it's relevant that like they didn't draft RJ. He wasn't their pick. I don't think they dislike RJ, by the way. I'm not saying that, but he was not their guy. He was not their selection. They inherited him. And I think it's notable that they gave Brunson descending salary last year. They gave Mitch a descending salary last year. They gave RJ an ascending salary last year, if I remember correctly. That's kind of an interesting departure from those two guys. So that's something to keep track of. If we want like the non-boring RJ answer, like if it's somebody other than RJ, I would say probably Deuce. Just because like I think it's if you're going to bring in DiVincenzo, there's a world where you're like, look, Deuce is kind of buried here. It's the last year of his contract. Are we really going to extend him? If we're not going to extend him, then let's just try to get what we can get for him right now and move on, which I think is reasonable. But yeah, that would be the non-RJ answer. This one is from Hawkeye 420. Why do people think Masai asking price for OG dropped since he joined CA? Great fucking question. I have no idea.
Me neither. Masai's insane. And his asking prices are going to remain insane. Yeah. I am interested to see though what Masai does when Fred VanVleet leaves for Houston and the $40 million that they have for him.
I don't think Masai has any idea what the fuck he's doing. I really don't. At this point, I am convinced he doesn't have a plan. He just seems to be holding on to guys for way too long, not maximizing any trade return value. He doesn't seem to want to make any tough decisions. He just keeps holding and holding and holding guys. That Jakob Poeltl trade was fucking insane. I don't understand what the point of that trade was. And I would love if a team blew them out of the water for Jakob Poeltl this offseason. That would be one of the funniest things that could possibly happen. And I'm praying it does because I think Masai Ujiri is a fucking loser. And I'm sick and tired of talking about him. And I'm sick and tired of his insane valuations for every player on their roster, like their prime fucking Michael Jordan. All right, this one again is from Jordan Bub. If Knicks acquire Paul George for a reasonable package, how would you feel? And what do you think is a reasonable cost for Paul George that the Knicks can give up?
Reasonable package. So I would say, like, of course, the RJ Fournier combo probably, and like what, 2 picks and like 2 firsts and unprotected. I mean, 2. My brain is leaving me. 2 picks and 1 protected.
2 picks, one of them being protected, one is unprotected.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's about right. I think RJ Fournier unprotected pick, a protected pick, Obi. It's like a reasonable cost. I think honestly, there's a world where the Knicks could give up less if the Clippers really wanted off the deal and they just don't. There's nothing else out there for him, which is possible. I mean, I haven't heard anything credible about another team being interested in Paul George. Now that could just be that there's not reporting about it, but it does feel relevant to mention that. The Knicks obviously he's CAA. The Knicks have CAA ties. They might feel better positioned than most teams to deal with him in a contract year. And obviously he's tight with Julius, which we know obviously on the podcast and everything. So there's just there's stuff there that I think is interesting. All right, let's see what else. Jordan asked a lot of questions. I don't think we can get all of them. Let's see what else is there. James asked a lot of questions that had nothing to do with that. All right, let's talk about this. This is good. Why is the upside of a Paul George trade only being considered? We don't get the benefit of upside in this city. 33 years old, injury prone, and maybe a spotty player performer at this point.
I mean, you gotta consider the upside when it comes to a lot of these points. Like, that's the reason why I think a lot of people are so focused on the upside. I think also, like, I guess a lot of people think the depth of this team will carry it more so than having to rely so much on Paul George, as he was relied on so much, I guess, on the Clippers, I guess you could say. But yeah, I guess people are just more so banking on depth being a thing that we have on our side, as well as just like, he has a Jalen Brunson and he has a Julius Randle to like carry him through those regular season moments. That way, maybe he can get through the playoffs, and that's where we see his real value take place.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say this: if you take out his like first two playoff runs, which he was just a very much a role player, and I think he was just first and second year in the league, so I don't really feel like counting those. If you look at his playoff runs, other than that, so this includes, he's had obviously bad playoffs, good playoffs. This is 92 playoff games he's played in since the 2012-13 season through the rest of his career. So 92 games played, 92 games started, 43% from the field, 36% from three, 50 EFG, just over 50 EFG, 23.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals, 0.5 blocks. Plays 40 minutes a night. That is on, I believe, 50. It's about 57 true shooting. Like, he definitely, obviously, like many players, he's not as good in the playoffs as he is in the postseason. I think all I can do is answer this for myself. I don't think this. Hawkeye's talking about this in here, so I just want to give the full context of his comments because I think it deserves it. Taking a risk for an injury-prone guy doesn't work in this sport unless you have a generational superstar on the roster already. I'm just full of PTSD. I can't comprehend the PG trade talks. I get that. I totally understand that, and like, I don't think that's unreasonable. If you just don't want to deal with the injury part of it, like, that's fair enough. But if I can do a deal where my only player outgoings are RJ, Fournier to Obi, I'm probably gonna pull the trigger. Like, again, it depends on what the pick ask is too. If it's too much, then fuck off.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to give up any future flexibility for this, but I personally look at this roster, and I think if those are the players going out, I like the pieces we have. I love the pieces we have when we're healthy. And like, this kind of goes back to the question that was asked earlier about why do people forget about Julius? Like, why is everybody kind of ignoring Julius's bad playoffs and whatever?
Regular season grants him.
If you're the front office, or if I'm the Knicks front office, and I'm just putting myself in their shoes, I'm trying to think how they think about this. I'm assuming they view the playoff Randall thing, in particular this year, as more of a function of his injury than his, him uniquely becoming the worst player of all time in the playoffs. And I would guess that they still view upgrading, and like, look, if you just look at the numbers, forget what you think and long-term upside and all this shit. Just look at the impact all the various impact metrics, the one guy that stood out like a sore thumb on the team last year really was RJ. He just did not have a good year. And he's been kind of up and down in all kinds of impact metrics over his career. So to me, he's a guy that if you're the front office, you'd reasonably be like, well, okay, we might only get 50 games of Paul George in the regular season. But one, those 50 games, his impact is still really fucking good. I mean, he's still a very good player when he plays. And two, if we have him right for the playoffs and if we believe in Jalen Brunson, I definitely believe in Jalen Brunson. And
I do.
we think let's say that they don't even believe that Randall's gonna be like the guy he is in the regular season. Let's just say they think he can get to like 53 true shooting, something reasonable that you can live with. If they think he's that guy and they like the rest of the team, I think it's a reasonable risk to take because I think the East was right there for the taking this year. I mean, we went 6 games with Miami, who won the East. And yeah, you can say they had a fluke run or whatever, but we also beat the shit out of the 4 seed, who, yeah, you can tell me we match up well with them, but we do match up well with them. So why would that change all of a sudden? They're going to get somebody for the mid-level exception that's going to change their fucking lives? I don't think so. And we don't have a big wing. We don't have that. And this is why I'm way more on board with the Paul George thing, even with the risks, the injury risk and all that shit, than I am with I'm not really on board with the Zach LaVine stuff. But with Paul George, I'm just I know if that guy is right, he is a top 15 guy in the league. He is that good. He is the exact profile of player on
6'9" wing, 3-level scorer,
and
defense.
He's the perfect profile for what this roster doesn't have on both ends of the floor. Don't have that big wing defender, and like you mentioned, offensively, it's not just that he's a 3-level scorer. He can score and he gets his usage off in totally different ways. He can run off screens, he can come off pin downs, he can be off ball. You can't run actions like that for RJ Barrett. If you love RJ Barrett, that's cool. I like RJ Barrett. I would love if the Knicks kept him and he proved me wrong and fucking he's actually just the answer all along. But right now, given what we've seen of him, do you think you can run a bunch of pin downs for RJ? Do you think you're going to have him come off floppy actions and shoot off the curl? Or you can't do that stuff with him. So I just think what it boils down to is me. Do you think this team, if things break right for them, just in terms of health, and I'm talking about other teams, if things break right for them, if they have their guys healthy for the playoffs and Paul George is right for the playoffs, and do you think that team is capable of contending? I do. And so I'd be willing to do it for that reason. And I think when Paul George is on the floor, I've still not seen any evidence of him I don't see the evidence of him being a worse player. I mean, maybe I need to dig into it more. But he's become a more perimeter oriented player, but he's been like that now for a while and he's maintained his effectiveness for a while. So to me, I think it's worth it. And if that blows up in my face and RJ Barrett fucking takes off somewhere else, okay. I mean, that's the risk you have to take sometimes. But, when you have Brunson playing at the level he's playing at, I think it opens up a window for you, or at least you might think it does. And it's up to you to choose whether or not
you want to capitalize on it or not.
And is there a guy that you can capitalize on it with? I don't know for sure if that's Paul George. I think there's reasonable arguments that have been made against it. And yeah, I don't know if Tibbs is still the coach. Is he going to get the most out of the roster? I don't know. Those are different questions though to me, because to me,
but you got to get to that point where those questions are a thing.
Yeah, and also if you get Paul George, at that point, I don't think Tibbs has any fucking excuse, because right now they're still RJ this and the overall talent that, and if you get him Paul George and he's got Jalen Brunson and he's got Julia
he's got regular season Julian Randle for the regular season.
Yeah, there's no excuse for him. He's just got to make it happen or not. I just saw this comment. That is pretty fucking weird. I'm not gonna lie. A major concern I have about Paul George is his parents are named Paul and Paulette. Thank you, Jack Goldstein. A+ comment. You get 35,000 Strickland points, which you can get nothing in return here. But yeah, I look. I think the Paul George thing is just interesting to me because he's the first guy we've been connected to. How many dudes over the last few years? Donovan Mitchell, Zach LaVine, fucking DeMar DeRozan, whoever. I've been pretty unmoved by any of those guys, even now after the season the Knicks just had. But to me, Paul George gives you a chance at matching up and playing against true contending teams. And more importantly, I think he can be had at a price where you're retaining your depth and you're retaining flexibility in terms of your assets that you still have pivots available to you down the line or ways to upgrade your roster available to you down the line. And that just was never going to be the case with like Donovan Mitchell and maybe to a lesser extent somebody like DeJounte Murray.
And thank God we didn't do the DeJounte Murray deal because look how that turned out for the Hawks. Nice.
Yeah, that was not a great deal. I will try to get to some of these Jordan Bub questions that he asked before. Here we go. What contract would be fair for Knicks to give Dante DiVincenzo, and what contract would you consider as a steal for Dante DiVincenzo?
So what did he make the last? He just turned down like what, a 4.7 player option.
He turned down a $4.7 million player option, and the Warriors could have given him up to $5.4 million starting salary this year.
And what can the Knicks give him, like mid-level exception?
Yeah, the mid-level is 12.4 starting this year.
Could we give him like $8 mil for like 2 years? To like 16 mil?
I mean, that would be a steal for sure.
That would be.
Yeah, that would be a steal.
But I think he's probably going to go for like 10.
Yeah, I think a fair one for him is like
10 for 3.
Yeah, maybe you do like 3.
10 for 3 with a team option.
Yeah, or 3.
Year.
I think it's weird. Like, I think he would want the player option. The Knicks would obviously want the team option.
Yeah.
But if it's a fair value contract, you'd probably say 3 for 30 on it with a player option on the third year is the fair one. If you want like, what would the Knicks do? I don't know. Like, well, I think the Knicks might be willing to give him the full 4, to be honest, because he's only 26 years old. They could look at it as
true.
Like we're gonna get his prime years. He looked better last year.
But also, do they want to line up his contract with like the timeline of like who they view as like this like core group, depending on where they go with, you know, a Paul George trade and like how they view Jalen Brunson and Randall's contracts play out, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, it's possible. I would guess they don't care. Like, I would guess that if they think he's a good contract, they would feel like if we need to move him, we can move him. Then we don't need to worry about that. That would just be my guess. I don't know anything for sure, but yeah, I think 4 for 44. I mean, 4 even at the full mid level, it feels a little bit pricey after the year he had. I know it was in Golden State. Like, it's like you have a lot of space. You play with Steph. It's tough, but everything I've heard, Warriors fans liked him. A lot of the data I saw was really good. His defense has been really good throughout his career. And I think that would actually be, I think that's like an underrated area the Knicks need to improve. I mean, they were really good in the playoffs, but they were 19th in defensive rating in the regular season last year. DiVincenzo is a good defender. He's a physical defender. He's a good rebounder for his size, which I think is very important. And I'd be very interested. I like the idea of acquiring DiVincenzo. Where his minutes come from, I'm curious to see. But I imagine that signing DiVincenzo is not. I would be surprised if that's the only thing the Knicks did this offseason. I really would. I'm trying to see if we have any other questions, but I don't know if we do really. Shout out to Hawkeye for saying he's anti Zach LaVine, so that's good. Aren't we all? I mean, look, right now it's pretty slow. We've had the same kind of regurgitating of shit without anything new, at least Knicks related. So shout out to the Bulls though for keeping Vucevic. That was a good move for them. Should they'll win a championship now. Sam, do you have any parting remarks? Any parting thoughts?
No, but Fred VanVleet just is about to get $40 million, and he couldn't even shoot 40% from the field this year. So dreams do come true, kids.
Yeah, they do. And I don't know. The VanVleet thing is pretty funny because I remember a few years ago I compared it like I just did like a stats comparison of I think maybe voting quickly after his second year to Fred VanVleet at the
And
same
Quickly's
age or
already
something.
better than him.
Yeah, well, it was just funny because people were like, "What, you think he could become Fred VanVleet?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Actually,
I mean, I like Fred VanVleet. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's like fucking
yeah, it act like it
superstar."
was like some like milestone to like really approach that. Like,
How could you think that? I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like that outlandish to me, but more power to you, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Look, this is a fun time of the year, but it's also like right now is I would imagine the next couple of days we're gonna get some real stuff. The Josh Hart thing is interesting. He gets his opt out. His his
they
opt
moved the
out
deadline to
deadline is tomorrow.
tomorrow.
It's 5 p.m. tomorrow. So that'll be interesting to see what they do if they opt in or actually I think we actually might have a few more questions from our Discord. So let me just pull those up real quick.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see if they what happens there. Actually, this is a good one. We'll finish off with this. This is from Dude or Adam. Going under the presumption that in either case Hart will be back, which do you prefer? He opt in and they extend, or that he opt out and re-sign? In essence, would you prefer the subsequent additive move made by him having him at only 12 million next year, or to maintain a little more flexibility down the line?
So like this is the so like he opts in. It's like what 12 point
Yeah, and we'd have the
something.
full mid-level then.
I'd rather do that honestly. Just to have I guess the more immediate flexibility right now. Because like you have the full mid level, you're able to like give DiVincenzo, I guess, the contract that he wants. So you're able to like guarantee getting that. And then I guess you move from there, whether you want to do the Paul George move or not. And yeah.
Yeah, I think if you can do if he opts in and extends, I think that's what you want to do. And there's always ways they can work the opt in, like, give him increase after the first year and then decrease after that. They can play around with the numbers on that to get him where. But what I imagine is happening is I think they probably know. I mean, look, he just tweeted something today about like RJ Barrett, like fucking the guy
He's
has
bored.
he's
He's
bored. He
obviously
seems
just like
very
fucking around. Like
yeah, he seems very confident he's gonna be back with the Knicks. I think the Knicks are pretty confident he's gonna be back with them. I imagine that what's happening is they have an idea of what the total number he wants over 4 or 5 years is, and they're playing around to see what they can do. We don't know what their plans are, right? It can if they make a trade, if they agree to a trade, or if they have a trade cooking in the background, if they have a mid-level exception deal agreed to with Dante DiVincenzo, or not that would ever happen before 6 p.m. on Friday before the free agency actually opens. But in that scenario, I think they would have an idea of what wiggle room they want. So I think they probably know. They probably have a lot of scenarios they're working through specific to this, and they'll be prepared. So I'm not too worried about this. Even if he opts out, I don't think he's going anywhere. There literally has been no buzz at all about. He's an unrestricted free agent who just had a really good season. And I've
there's
heard,
like nothing about him being linked to any other teams.
yeah, not anything. Like I've not seen one fucking thing.
Like I've seen
So
fucking Kevin Love get a fucking like Bucks jersey swap graphic because like he's been linked to them for like through one rumor. Like if Josh Hart isn't getting anything else, then he's staying.
yeah, I'd be pretty shocked if he's not on the team.
Free agency opens up on Friday, you said, right? 6?
Yeah, Friday 6 p.m. We will be doing a free agency live stream, so keep an eye out for that.
I will probably be there for that, so that way you can see my live reaction to deals such as last year, like when the Lou Dort got his infamous contract, and I was absolutely stunned. So we'll see what idiots pay anyone such large amounts of money.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. All right, I think that is a good place to end this. Sam, let the people know where they can find you. Plug anything that you would like to plug.
I am at FBL_Sam, as you see on the screen right there. And if you're not watching, then you're listening. And that you can find me at on Instagram and on Twitter, where you can see my NBA takes as well as any other takes on everything else in life.
Word. I have nothing to plug, so again, I'm just going to plug all the work at Strickland. I'll plug Instagram, YouTube. Please subscribe to that if you already haven't. That'd be a huge help to us. We'll plug our wonderful sponsor, Bet Online. They're the best. Please use that promo code Believe if you want to. And I will promote our, again, the website, all the works, podcasts. Check out all the draft stuff that even though Knicks didn't pick anybody, that Prez and the rest of that crew did, Stacy, Tyrese, everybody, they did a really good job. And again, we'll plug the free agency live stream that we're going to be doing. I think that probably start kicking off by 5:45. So be tuned in for that. All right, that again is our show for today. Thanks for everybody for rocking with us. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and we will see you on Friday.
Peace.